listen, if you're a film fan, you need to go to the Sundance Film Festival before you die. I'm always saying that it's my favorite fest because it premieres my favorite movies, and it's not that it's my favorite movie just because it comes out of Sundance. It's sort of like that dumb logic that you hear sometimes where it's like, oh, you only like that movie because it's from your favorite director. Well, yeah, wouldn't that be what makes them my favorite director? The fact that they're directing my favorite movies? So of course, like Denny with every premiere, the Sundance Film Festival delivered again this year. And so thanks to Squarespace, we got the 10 must-watches from this year to break down. And considering that we got 52 movies this year, we're not just rounding it up to an even number or anything like that. These are legit the 10 movies I cannot wait for you guys to watch. Let me explain. So if you've ever been curious to go to the fest, we actually made a video on the cheapest and best way to go, so shout out to everyone who watched that video and who we were able to meet there, because it's definitely an experience to look forward to every year. You're out in the beautiful Park City with the gorgeous mountains, the fluffiest of snow, the best slopes on this side of the Mississippi, and instead you spend 2 weeks inside a dark room. I love it. This year had a bunch of movies, a lot that had a lot of buzz, but weren't personally my favorite must-watches, but that doesn't mean that they might not be your favorites, which is why I like talking about them. There's The Souvenir, which was one of the big ones from A24 that was supposed to be a world cinema movie, but I mean, it was still in English. I guess it's just because it's from the UK. A lot of critics came out liking this one, while myself and my entire crew kept wondering if we were watching the same movie. Maybe if you're, I don't know, Karsten Runquist, you might like it, but I sat there feeling like I was at a boring couple's house and I had no idea how to leave the home. At the end, it even mentions during the credits that there's going to be a sequel, because I take it this is the story of the director's life, and the sequel's supposed to star Robert Pattinson, so that's interesting. But I just found that funny because throughout the entirety of Sundance, there was an intro that was playing that kept calling out sequels, and then that ended up being one of their biggest films. Adam is the story of a boy who likes a girl so much that he pretends to be a transgender, and I cannot wait to see how peacefully people take this one. I thought the movie was funny. Now, be it the selections or more people having Twitter, but there was a couple of controversies that came out of Sundance this year. There was a group outside of the premiere of Leaving Neverland as if they were working for the estate or something. Extremely Wicked went trending on Twitter with people trying to cancel it before even watching the movie. And having seen it, I found all of it funny because, one, the people arguing against it said that it should be more like the Netflix documentary series, and it's produced by the same people. Two, people kept saying that it was insensitive to the victims and that they should be thinking about them, and the movie's based off of the victim's novel and her perspective, so I mean, I don't know any better way to respect the victims than by telling their story and then, you know, giving them a little dough. Number 3 is a spoiler, so I have to wait till the full LME to really say that, but I was laughing at the people getting offended for showcasing a serial killer, wanting to cancel this thing. And I saw them go straight back and listen to My Favorite Murder. A lot of big deals were also made at Sundance, like Late Night, which made $13 million, and that's the comedy starring, written, and produced by Mindy Kaling that I thought was pretty good. The Report, which is the biggest middle finger to Zero Dark 30, made $14 million. And then a movie called Blinded by the Light that got picked up for $15 million, which I guess makes sense considering that it's all set to Bruce Springsteen music. What is funny though is that considering Rocketman and Yesterday are also coming out, it's pretty much looking like 2019 is going to be a musical of a year. To the Stars is a beautiful story told in black and white in a rural town in the Midwest back in the day, and since I hadn't read up on any of it, I felt like a complete idiot not realizing what the movie was actually about until the third act. Like everybody else in my group, they knew what was going on, but I didn't realize what was going on until like the third act that hit me like a revelation. I was like, oh. Also, it's the actors from Moonrise Kingdom all grown up, so there's also that. Before you know it is a comedy that to some may be trying too hard to be a Sundance indie, but I personally liked it. It follows these full-grown sisters hunting down their mom who left them when they were younger, but it turns out that she's actually a famous soap opera actress, and then things get a little crazy. We Are Little Zombies feels like Scott Pilgrim, Umbrella Academy, and the darkest comedy about orphans bonding together as they start a band, and the whole thing is told like an 8-bit game. Like there's levels, the music, all of it just put together pretty much resulted in this thing that some of you have listened to this and are already putting it as your number 1. The Sound of Silence is that perfect Netflix movie with an interesting premise that's more fun to talk about than it is to watch. Pretty much this guy adjusts the sounds in your house because he has this theory that the white noise your fridge causes, the frequency your toaster gives off, all of that alters the way you feel and in some cases could cause a divorce. It's a pretty crazy theory, and now I live under a bunker. The death of Dick Long comes from one of the Daniels who did Swiss Army Man, and while it's not as visually stunning as Swiss, when you realize what killed Dick Long, what the funny thing about Paradise Hills is that I had only seen one image and thought it took place in the past. So I was blown away when the movie starts, and within the first 5 minutes, it's going to be in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. They come out of this ball only to go into a chariot that flies away. Now, that's just the trailer for the pitch, but this thing gets even crazier when you realize that it's all about... Mope is about these two guys who want to be porn stars, but become mopes. The background dudes who get kicked in the nuts for pleasure. And it's a true story, and it starts with a bukkake. It's up to you to watch. The lodge I had called Hereditary Junior, which I'll explain later when I can really get into spoilers, but I really want to emphasize the junior part, because everyone heard Hereditary and we're like, what, it's nowhere near that. And yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a solid horror movie from the duo that brought us Goodnight Mommy, but when I reveal in one sentence what it really sums up to, I think most of y'all would agree. That's kind of thing with a lot of the horror movies that I caught there. Koko-Di-Koko-Da is a repetitive nightmare disguised as a lullaby about a couple dealing with grief. Hole in the Ground makes you question if the actual premise was even the point, and it was less about a kid being swapped out. And Wounds is a movie that, man, Wounds had so much potential, but it's one that I still got to dig a little deeper with because I'm hoping that there's more there with it. Some of the others that I saw were The Infiltrators, which was an interesting look at immigration by mixing actors in with real life footage. So you would have an actor portraying what happened on the inside in the facility while cutting alongside the real person who was on the phone on the outside. It's kind of like American Animals, except you actually like the people. Apollo 11 is B-roll, the movie that makes you question if time travel is real because these images were restored to perfection. Them That Follow reminded me why I don't join cults that follow snakes. Cold Case was a great documentary with discoveries about Africa that should be getting attention, the same amount of attention we're giving these other mainstream docs. The Inventor is evil female Steve Jobs, if she's even human. She might be a robot. And then finally there's The Last Black Man in San Francisco, which out of all of these is probably the one that's growing on me the most, especially when I rewatched the trailer that just came out. It is definitely more on the slower side. It feels like a bunch of vignettes, almost like a stage play, the way the characters are bound to their sets. And I had said that if this movie was a short film, I probably would have given it an 11 out of 10. I just felt that the 2 hours kind of dragged it out a bit, but the music, certain shots, and that ending montage scene that goes along with the theory that I had just mentioned earlier in this video, it really might be one of the better ones. So right off the bat, I'm cheating and starting off with number 11. On top of that, this isn't even from Sundance. There's actually another festival that goes on at the same time as Sundance, and it's even at the same place where Sundance is taking place, and it's called Slam Dance. I'm pretty sure their slogan is, hey, we're actually independent, so like support us and not multi-million-dollar indie films, the festival. And so I decided to catch one of the things that was showing there called Happy Face, where a kid fakes having a face deformity in order to fit into these weekly meetings a group is having, and the way it progresses is genius. Queen of Hearts is the official start of my Sundance must-watch top 10, and I was so happy it won the award for Best World Cinema, because imagine a soap opera, but the filmmaking's actually pretty well done. It's pretty much the most manipulative story you can get out of a stepmom seducing their stepson, and it had me like this the whole time. This one's gonna get remade. You know, sometimes a movie is just too good for a studio to not want to stretch it out, but I think that the remake could actually work. See, what makes The Farewell great isn't just the concept of getting everyone together to see Grandma one last time before she dies, except she doesn't know she's dying, so they fake a wedding as the excuse for everyone to be there. That's great, but it's also the culture side of where they break down the East as compared to the West. It could still be a good remake if they can find something that had as much impact. Might even be better if they told it through the couple having to fake the wedding's perspective. incredible. I know everyone's raving that Lupita should win the Oscar for Us because she's playing two roles, but y'all haven't even seen her in Little Monsters. Imagine a movie where a kindergarten teacher has to protect her class from zombies, but she's also singing them songs so they don't even know they're getting attacked by zombies. The movie itself is hilarious and so rewatchable, but what I love the most about it is that the director said he made it as a love letter to his kid, that the character in the movie has the same mannerisms as his child and the same likes as his kid, and that he can't wait till his son is old enough, has kids, and watches this movie to really understand the love he has for him, the love that he couldn't put into words. This may be higher. Only movie to make me cry at the fest. I'm not saying it's a whiplash type ending, because it's not, but they both kind of made me feel the same emotion. I don't think directing a triumphant scene is the hard part when it comes to a movie, because anyone can do that. They can put someone in a rut, but it's making the audience believe that they're in a hole that they can't come out of when you realize that they're their worst enemy. Because while this is supposed to be a comedy, this movie makes you hate the character and love the character at the same time, and honestly has one of the best endings at the festival. This movie is raw. I had mentioned how they were checking IDs before going in to see the film. They had paramedics and therapists in the lobby. I was at the screening where the lady in the balcony rushed out 20 minutes in during that scene and almost fell over about to hurl. My buddies were in the screening where someone had a heart attack and had to stop the movie. Suffice to say, it's gonna get hyped like crazy, but this is one of the best revenge thrillers, if only because of how realistic the initial scenes are. I'm really excited to watch this with an audience again, especially for that ending, because it got probably one of the biggest cheers, but not for the reason you might think so. I had just mentioned that my favorite movie from South by was Peanut Butter Falcon. Go watch Peanut Butter Falcon. But at Sundance, Shia also came out with another movie about his life where he plays his own dad, and it's cut between Lucas Hedges playing him in rehab, writing the script for the movie that you're watching, and then his younger self being raised by his older self. And I absolutely love this movie. The best thing he did with this is to give it to Alma Harao, who directed the movie, because I know a lot of people who would have wanted to do the directing side as well and star in it, and honestly, her perspective is what makes it. One of 47 movies being compared to Superbad this year, and I'm still quoting it. I don't know who's going to believe that Pete Davidson is a teenager in the beginning of the movie, but the rest of it is just as hilarious. You got a kid who befriends his sister's boyfriend and then still remains friends with him even after they break up, and even though he's got like 5 years on him, but it's that ending. I've been saying that I have this theory. It's more of a pattern, but I kid you not, there are like 8 movies coming out this year that hit this specific theme. And I don't know if it's on purpose or if the movie guys are trying to tell me something, but it gets me every time. This movie is at the same time the best and worst movie I saw at the festival. It's a cult classic before it even came out. It's like that What English Sounds Like to Others video, but for humans. Like if aliens landed today and were observing us, this is how we would come off. It's like seeing a new color, hearing a new sound. It's a masterpiece, and yet at the same time, it's also an Adam Sandler movie. Now, technically, these two are tied for number 1, but I'll start off with Luce. Earlier in the fest, I had also caught the movie Cher, A Native Son, and in this movie, Luce, I kid you not, it has side stories that delivers what these full features were going for. And it does it better. I think it's one of the best written films. I kept hearing someone at the press screenings calling it the reason you go to Sundance, and I personally nicknamed it We Need to Talk About Kelvin. I don't want to spoil anything about this other than it follows a senior who uses all the stereotypes around him in order to kind of get ahead, maybe even use it to his pleasure, but I'm telling you that still doesn't even live up to the hype. But then, of course, there's the untitled, amazing Johnathan documentary. This is it. Again, Oscars, y'all better be rounding up to 10 next year. Regardless of you not knowing anything about Amazing Johnathan, or if you're still one of those people who has that stigma about docs being boring, throw all of that out the window. The less you know about this documentary, the better. But for those who need a little selling point, think about it like this. Imagine a doc within a doc within a doc that while you're watching it is still going on. Thank you guys for watching this video, and of course a big shout out to Squarespace for sponsoring it. I'm gonna have a whole list out there eventually on the site for you guys to watch, especially with all the other film festivals that we're covering, especially in the fall. But we got our new and improved site looking to go live again next month, and of course that's all thanks to the best website building software out there. Anytime we've needed help, we hit them up and we got 24/7 support. When we first had to switch domains, they made it super simple. When it came to setting up our templates, even easier. And now we're getting ready to push out merch through them with their commerce feature. So pretty much if you love Let Me Explain and are looking to start your own website for literally anything, head over to squarespace.com/letmeexplain and get 10% off when you sign up. Thanks again for being patient on this one. I know Sundance was like 3 months ago, but I mean, it's a film festival. A lot of these movies haven't even come out yet, so I'm curious to see the reception for a lot of these when they do. We just finished the whole West Coast trip that became a southbound trip to South by Southwest and then New Orleans and Tampa. But now that we're going back home, it's time to catch up with these things. So thank you guys for your patience, for supporting us, for enjoying movies with us, and of course, for commenting, liking, and subscribing.